What does it take to deliver a performance so flawless that it silences an entire arena? A performance so composed it feels almost inhuman. A performance that is the absolute definition of being in the zone. I'm Sam Martin, mental performance coach to pro athletes around the world. And today I'm breaking down one of the greatest psychological displays in sports history. LeBron James' Game 6 in the 2012 Eastern Conference Finals. A game that redefined what it means to be mentally locked in. This is a masterclass in focus, control, and execution. I don't care if you have zero interest in basketball. If you're an athlete in any sport, you should watch this video. Because the lessons from this performance will change how you think about mental preparation and peak performance. So let's get started. In 2010, LeBron James made a decision that changed the landscape of basketball forever. He left his hometown team, the Cleveland Cavaliers, to form a super team in Miami, alongside Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. On paper, this trio was designed to dominate the league for years to come. But instead of admiration, LeBron's move ignited an unparalleled wave of backlash. Overnight, he became the most hated player in the NBA. Critics called him arrogant, fans labeled him a villain, and every opposing team wanted to be the one to expose the Heat as a failed experiment. And by 2012, 2 years into their run, the pressure on Miami's big three was suffocating. LeBron himself was at a crossroads. At 27 years old, he was entering his physical prime. Already a three-time MVP and the undisputed face of the league. Yet despite his individual brilliance, he carried the reputation of falling short when it mattered most, particularly in clutch playoff moments. Heading into Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals against the Boston Celtics, the stakes couldn't have been higher. The Heat were one loss away from elimination, and their entire future as a franchise hung in the balance. A loss here wouldn't just end their season, it could have signaled the breakup of the Big Three, a public admission that their grand experiment had been a failure. For LeBron, it would have been a devastating blow to his legacy. And let's not forget, the entire NBA world was watching, gleefully hoping for his downfall. And then there was the added pressure of the venue, Boston's TD Garden, one of the most hostile environments in sports. The Boston Celtics, led by their own big three of Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and Ray Allen, were the embodiment of toughness and grit. And their fans? They were infamous for their intensity. The Garden wasn't just a place where teams played, it was an arena where only the mentally strongest could survive. For LeBron, this wasn't just another game. This was a trial by fire. Under the brightest lights and the loudest jeers, he faced an unimaginable level of pressure, one that would have broken most other athletes. So what should have his approach been? To fire himself up and unleash himself as the athletic animal he was? No, he had a clear game plan. From the opening moments of Game 6, LeBron James' demeanor said everything. As the camera zoomed in on his face, there was no trace of nervous energy, no hint of uncertainty. His expression was locked in, laser focused, like a man on a mission. This was no ordinary level of focus. It was as if he had flipped a mental switch, shutting out every single distraction. The roaring Boston crowd, the stakes of the game, even the emotions that typically fuel players in high pressure situations. What we saw was the essence of a stoic persona. A psychological state of pure composure. And stoicism isn't about suppressing emotions, it's about mastering them. It's the ability to detach from what you can't control and channel every ounce of energy into what you can. And then LeBron started cooking. Throughout the game, LeBron didn't celebrate his shots, no matter how difficult they were to make. He didn't complain to referees, he didn't react to hard fouls, and he didn't even acknowledge the trash talk flying his way. His mood was unshaken, whether he drained a deep three-pointer or missed a contested shot. As each one made its way through the hoop, the Boston crowd grew quieter and quieter. Their usual rowdiness was replaced by the vibe of school children sitting awkward and scared after getting a telling off from their teacher. And by halftime, LeBron had an astounding 30 points and was 12 of 13 as he helped Miami into a 13-point lead. But his face remained unchanged. Dead-eyed focus and not a hint of emotion. But this wasn't indifference, it was intentional. By staying emotionally neutral, he conserved his mental energy, ensuring that every ounce of concentration remained on execution. It's well known in sports psychology that emotional regulation is a critical factor in peak performance. Excessive highs or lows can cloud decision-making and sap your focus. You can easily get carried away by a hot run of play or easily feel dejected by a few cold minutes. But LeBron's ability to stay in this controlled state gave him a mental edge over everyone else on the court. His body language sent a powerful message. He was unfazed, unshaken, and unstoppable. Nothing would have rattled him that day. And this mindset was contagious. You could see it in the way his teammates rallied behind him, feeding off of his composure. It wasn't just his skill that dominated the Celtics that night, it was his mental mastery. This kind of focus isn't something you just stumble into. It's cultivated. It's the product of years of training, not just physically, but also mentally. LeBron showed us that to be truly locked in, you have to block out all the noise, both the external and internal, and commit to the present moment with absolute clarity. If LeBron's stoic demeanor set the tone, his execution of course made this performance unforgettable. From the very first quarter, he was precise, methodical, and relentless. Every movement, every decision seemed calculated, like a machine programmed for one purpose. But where his performance truly entered legendary territory was in the second half of the game. With the stakes rising and the Boston crowd now desperately trying to rally their big three, most players would feel fatigue, both physical and mental. As the clock ticks down and there's a sense of being chased, those in the lead often start hesitating on their shots, forcing plays, or just succumbing to the pressure. Basketball, like many other sports, is a game of momentum. A 10-point swing can sometimes happen in just a couple of minutes. Despite this pressure building, LeBron did not let up. While his own personal scoring decreased, the other parts of his game doubled down. Every possession was like watching a masterclass in staying in the zone. There's now a common psychological term for this state: flow. It's when an athlete becomes completely immersed in the task at hand, losing all sense of time, doubt, or distraction. LeBron was the embodiment of flow that night. He wasn't just reacting to the game, he was controlling it. What's most remarkable is how LeBron's focus allowed him to maintain near perfect efficiency. By the second half, defenders knew what was coming, yet it didn't matter. He kept hitting shot after shot and inch perfect pass after pass. And he finished the game with 45 points, shooting 19 for 26 from the field. That's a staggering 73% accuracy against one of the league's best defenses. And think about what that means mentally. He wasn't just shooting, passing, and dribbling. He was making split-second calculations, reading the defensive rotations, anticipating help, and exploiting every opening. This level of execution isn't just skill. It's the product of unparalleled focus and confidence in his preparation. In the second half, as the Celtics tried to rally, LeBron's ability to stay emotionally neutral became even more crucial. When most players might celebrate a big shot or show frustration after a missed opportunity, LeBron stayed robotic, deliberately so. Celebrations or reactions would have cost precious energy. By the time the game ended, it wasn't just the scoreboard that told the story. It was the look on the Celtics' faces. They weren't just defeated, they were demoralized. LeBron's flawless execution had broken their will. This wasn't just a display of physical dominance, it was psychological warfare. LeBron showed that staying in the zone isn't about being flashy or emotional. It's about relentless robotic precision. And when you can maintain that level of execution under the brightest lights, you don't just win, you leave a legacy. So what can you as an athlete learn from this game? How can LeBron's mindset and approach be translated into your own performances? Well, let's break down 3 key psychological takeaways, and most importantly, how you can apply them. Firstly, emotion is energy. LeBron didn't suppress his emotions, he channeled them. And there's a huge difference here. A lot of athletes think that the key to performing under pressure is to feel nothing. They try to block out nerves or pretend that the pressure isn't there. But emotions are energy, and energy can either power you or paralyze you, depending on how you use it. LeBron revealed that his mindset before the game was one of nerves and a bit of fear. He knew the stakes were high and that the big three formed may have been over if they lost this game. But LeBron used his emotions to fuel his focus. He leveraged their energy rather than trying to suppress and eliminate them. Think about it. Every big shot, every defensive play, it wasn't fueled by overexcitement or panic. It came from controlled intensity, and you can do the same. And here's 3 things that you can use before your big next performance to do so. 1, actually acknowledge the pressure. Say it out loud if you have to. This game matters, and I need to carry the weight of it. And then 2, reframe the nerves. Instead of seeing them as a problem, see them as proof that you're ready. Remind yourself, this is my body preparing me for greatness. And finally, breathe into focus. Take a deep breath to regulate your arousal levels and set an intention. Something like, I'm here to execute. That's all that matters. This process isn't about ignoring the pressure, it's about owning it and then turning it into something useful. Okay, so another key takeaway from LeBron I think will be useful for you is to break it down to the next play. One of the biggest traps athletes fall into during big games is thinking too far ahead. You start imagining the end result, winning, losing, what it means for your career, and before you know it, you're overwhelmed. As soon as the game started, LeBron avoided that entirely. He didn't think about Game 7 of the series or making the NBA Finals. He didn't think about the championship. He thought about one possession at a time. That's called a task-oriented focus, and it's a game changer for staying in the zone. Here's how you can train yourself to think like this. Firstly, you've got to identify your controllables. Before the game starts, know exactly what's inside your control. Is it your defensive positioning? Is it your passing decisions? Your tempo? Write them down as a few simple bullet points to get crystal clear on these if you have to. And then secondly, refocus after mistakes. This one is super key. When you mess up, and look, you will, your instinct might be to dwell on it. But look, even LeBron didn't make every shot in Game 6 and had some sloppy moments on defense. But he didn't ever let one mistake snowball into several. So after one bad play, immediately tell yourself, put up the next one. It's about staying in the moment over and over again. Being locked in is about being 100% in the present moment. As soon as a play is finished, it is in the past, so leave it there and move on. When you commit to the process, the results take care of themselves, just like it did for LeBron. And then above all else, the main insight from this masterclass from LeBron is actually something so basic. Consistency is the killer of doubt. Again, he never wavered. Missed shots didn't rattle him, but also made shots didn't inflate him. That level of emotional control is the foundation of peak performance. Think about it, most players might celebrate a big moment. Maybe they gesture to the crowd, show some emotion, or even get frustrated if things weren't going their way. But LeBron, he stayed emotionally neutral for the entire game, except for one minor lapse in slamming the ball and earning a technical foul. Aside from that blip, there was no shift in body language, no signs of frustration or excitement. It was as if nothing outside of executing the next possession even existed for him. This is what separates the elite. Consistency in how they approach every single moment, no matter the stakes. The key here isn't just to celebrate less or react less, it's to stay laser focused on what's next. So if you want to achieve the same consistency when locking in, then you should firstly react to nothing. Whether it's a make, a miss, or a mistake, don't let your emotions dictate your actions. Stay neutral, stay locked in. And then secondly, make a conscious effort to communicate composure. Your body language sets the tone, not just for you, but for your teammates. Carry yourself like everything is under control, even when the pressure is at its peak. This stops you from getting overly tense and therefore less likely to put too much or too little force into decisive movements and plays. You want to remain loose to execute things to perfection, just like LeBron did. Whether it was a pull-up jump shot or a dunk, LeBron would just calmly jog back into position. His movement's always fluid. He looked and felt extremely light. And that's what ironically allowed him to play with heavy intensity to blow away the Celtics. So LeBron James's Game 6 wasn't just a masterclass in basketball, it was a masterclass in psychology. It showed us what's possible when focus, emotional control, and consistency come together at the highest level. And to learn how another superstar manages to perform under pressure, then check out this next video here.